Reading Truth in Lending Act from the Code of Federal Regulations in Subpart B about open-end credit, 1026.15 rate of rescission. Letter A, the consumer's right to rescind 1 Roman numeral 1, except as provided in paragraph A 1 Roman numeral 2 of this section, in a credit plan in which a security interest is or will be retained or required in a consumer's principal dwelling. Each consumer whose ownership interest is or will be subject to the security interest shall have the right to rescind each credit extension made under the plan. The plan, when the plan is open, a security interest when added or increased to secure an existing plan, and the increase when a credit limit on the plan is increased. Roman numeral 2. As provided in Section 125E of the Act, the consumer does not have to have the right to rescind each credit extension made under the plan if such extension is made in accordance with a previously established credit limit for the plan. 2. To exercise the right to rescind, a consumer shall notify the creditor of the rescission by mail, telegram, or other means of written communication. Notice is considered given when mailed or when filed for telegraphic transmission, or if sent by other means when delivered to the creditor's designated place of business. 3. A consumer may exercise the right to rescind until midnight of the third business day following the occurrence described in paragraph A1 of this section that gave rise to the right of rescission. Delivery of the notice required by paragraph B of the section, or delivery of all material disclosures, whichever occurs last. If the required notice and material disclosures are not delivered, the right to rescind shall expire 3 years after the occurrence giving rise to the right of rescission, or upon transfer of all of the consumer's interest in the property, or upon sale of the property, whichever occurs first. In the case of certain administrative proceedings, the rescission period shall be extended in accordance with Section 125F of the Act. The term material disclosures means the information that must be provided to satisfy the requirements in 1026.6 with regard to the method of determining the finance charge and the balance upon which a finance charge will be imposed, the APR, the amount or method of determining the amount of any membership or participation fee that may be imposed as part of the plan, and the payment information described in 102640D51 and Roman numeral 2 that is required under 1026. I just scrolled down. 1026.6E2. 4. When more than one customer has the right to rescind, the exercise of the right by one consumer shall be effective as to all consumers. B. Letter B. Notice of right to rescind in any transaction or occurrence subject to rescission, and a creditor shall deliver 2 copies of the notice of the right to rescind to each consumer entitled to rescind, 1 copy to each if the notice is delivered in electronic form in accordance with the consumer consent and other applicable provisions of the e-Sign Act. The notice shall identify the transaction or occurrence and clearly and conspicuously disclose the following: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1. The retention or acquisition of a security interest in the consumer's principal dwelling. 2. The consumer's right to rescind as described in paragraph A1 of this section. 3. How to exercise the right to rescind with a form for that purpose designating the address of the creditor's place of business. 4. The effects of rescission as described in paragraph D of this section. And 5. The date the rescission period expires. Letter C. Delay of creditor's performance. Unless a consumer waives the right to rescind under paragraph E of this section, no money shall be disbursed other than in escrow. No services shall be performed, and no materials delivered until after the rescission period has expired and the creditor is reasonably satisfied that the consumer has not rescinded. A creditor does not violate this section if a third party, with no knowledge of the event activating the rescission right, does not delay in providing materials or services, as long as the debt incurred for those materials or services is not secured by the property subject to rescission. Effects of rescission. 1. When the consumer rescinds a transaction, the security interest giving rise to the right of rescission becomes void, and the consumer shall not be liable for any amount, including any finance charge. 2. D2 effects of rescission. Within 20 days after receipt of a notice of rescission, the creditor shall return any money or property that has been given to anyone in connection with the transaction and shall take any action necessary to reflect the termination of the security interest. 3. If the creditor has delivered any money or property, the consumer may retain possession until the creditor has met its obligation under paragraph D2 of this section. And when the creditor has complied with that paragraph, the consumer shall tender the money or property to the creditor, or, where the latter would be impracticable or inequitable, tender its reasonable value. At the consumer's option, tender of property may be made at the location of the property or at the consumer's residence. Tender of money must be made at the creditor's designated place of business. If the creditor does not take possession of the money or property within 20 days after the consumer's tender, the consumer may keep it without further obligation. 4. The procedures outlined in paragraphs D2 and 3 of the section may be modified by court order. E. Consumer's right, waiver of right to rescind. The consumer may modify or waive the right to rescind if the consumer determines that the extension of credit is needed to meet a bona fide personal emergency. If modified, or to modify or waive the right, the consumer shall give the creditor a dated written statement that describes the emergency, specifically modifies or waives the right to rescind, and bears the signature of all the consumers entitled to rescind. Printed forms for this purpose are prohibited. Exempt transactions. The right to rescind does not apply to the following: 1 or 2, 1, a residential mortgage transaction, or 2, a credit plan in which a state agency is a creditor. Section 1026.16 about advertising for open-end credit plans. Actually available terms. If an advertisement for credit states specific credit terms, it shall state only those terms that actually are or will be arranged or offered by the creditor. B. Advertisement of terms that require additional disclosures. 1. Any term required to be disclosed under 1026.6b3 set forth affirmatively or negatively in an advertisement for an open-end, non-home secured credit plan triggers additional disclosures under this section. Any term required to be disclosed under 1026.6a1 or a2 set forth affirmatively or negatively in an advertisement for a home equity plan subject to the requirements of 1026.40 triggers additional disclosures under this section. If any of the terms that trigger additional disclosures under this paragraph is set forth in an advertisement, the advertisement shall also clearly and conspicuously set forth the following: any minimum fixed transaction, activity, or similar charge that is a finance charge under 1026.4 that could be imposed. 2. Any period rate that may be applied expressed as an annual percentage rate as determined under 1026.14b or if the plan provides for a variable periodic rate, the fact shall be disclosed. 3. Any membership or participation fee that could be imposed. 2. If an advertisement for credit to finance the purchase of goods or services specified in the advertisement states a periodic payment amount, the advertisement shall also state the total of payments and the time period to repay the obligation, assuming that the consumer pays only the periodic payment amount advertised. The disclosure of the total amount or total of payments and the time period to repay the obligation must be equally prominent to the statement of the periodic payment amount. C. Catalogs or other multiple page advertisements, electronic advertisements. If a catalog or other multiple page advertisement or an electronic advertisement, such as an advertisement appearing on an internet website, gives information in a table or schedule if sufficient detail to permit determination of the disclosures required by paragraph B of this section, it shall be considered a single advertisement if Roman numeral 1 I, the table or schedule is clearly and conspicuously set forth, and Roman numeral 2, any statement of terms set forth in 1026.6 appearing anywhere else in the catalog or advertisement clearly refers to the page or location where the table or schedule begins. 2. A catalog or other multiple page advertisement or an electronic advertisement, such as an advertisement appearing on an internet website, complies with this paragraph if the table or schedule of terms includes all appropriate disclosures for a representative scale of amounts up to the level of the more commonly sold higher priced property or services offered. Letter D, additional requirements for home equity plans. 1. Advertisement of terms that require additional disclosures. If any of the terms required to be disclosed under 1026.A1 or A2 or the payment terms of the plan are set forth affirmatively or negatively in an advertisement for a home equity plan subject to the requirements of 1026.40, the advertisement shall clearly and conspicuously set forth the following. Roman numeral 1 through 3. 1. Any loan fee that is a percentage of the credit limit under the plan and an estimate of any other fees imposed for opening the plan stated as a single dollar amount or a reasonable range. 2. Any periodic rate used to compute the finance charge expressed as APR as determined under 1026.14b. And 3. The maximum APR that may be imposed in a variable rate plan. 2. Discounted and premium rates. If an advertisement states an initial APR that is not based on the index or margin used to make later rate adjustments in a variable rate plan, the advertisement also shall state with equal prominence and in close proximity to the initial rate 1 and 2, 1, the period of time of such initial rate will be in effect, and 2, a reasonable current APR that would have been in effect using the index and margin. 3. Balloon payment. If the advertisement contains a statement of any minimum periodic payment and a balloon payment may result if only the minimum periodic payments are made, even if such a payment is uncertain or unlikely, the advertisement also shall state with equal prominence and in close proximity to the minimum periodic payment statement that a balloon payment may result if applicable. A balloon payment results if paying the minimum periodic payments does not fully amortize the outstanding balance by a specified date or time, and the consumer is required to pay the entire outstanding balance at such time. If a balloon payment will occur when the consumer makes only the minimum payments required under the plan, an advertisement for such a program which contains any payment of any minimum periodic payment shall also state with equal prominence and in close proximity to the minimum periodic payment statement. 1 and 2. 1. That a balloon payment will result, and 2. The amount and timing of the balloon payment and that will result if the consumer makes only the minimum payments for the maximum period of time that the consumer is permitted to make such payments. 4. Tax implications. An advertisement that states that any interest expense incurred under the home equity plan is or may be tax deductible may not be misleading in this regard. If an advertisement distributed in paper form or through the internet rather than by television or radio is for a home equity plan secured by the consumer's principal dwelling, and the advertisement shall clearly and conspicuously state that 1 and 2. 1. The interest on the portion of the credit extension that is greater than the fair market value of the dwelling is not tax deductible for federal income tax purposes, and Roman numeral 2, the consumer should consult a tax advisor for further information regarding the deductibility of interest and charges. 5. Misleading terms. An advertisement may not refer to a home equity plan as free money or contain a similarly misleading term. 6. Promotional rates and payments definitions. The following definitions apply for purposes of paragraph D6 of this section. And A. Promotional rate. The term promotional rate means in a variable rate plan any annual percentage rate that is not based on the index and margin that will be used to make rate adjustments under the plan if that rate is less than a reasonably current APR that would be in effect under the index and margin that would be used to make rate adjustments under the plan. B. Promotional payment. The term promotional payment means 1. For a variable rate plan, any minimum payment applicable for a promotional period that Roman numeral 1 is not derived by applying the index and margin to the outstanding balance when such index and margin will be used to determine other minimum payments under the plan, and 2 is less than other minimum payments under the plan derived by applying a reasonably current index and margin that will be used to determine the amount of such payments given an assumed balance. 2. For a plan other than a variable rate plan, any minimum payment applicable for a promo period, if that payment is less than other payments required under the plan given an assumed balance. Promotional period. A promotional period means a period of time less than the full term of the loan that the promotional rate or promotional payment will be applicable. 2. Stating the promotional period and post-promotional rate or payments. If any APR that may be applied to a plan is a promotional rate, or if any payment applicable to the plan is a promotional payment, the following must be disclosed in any advertisement other than television or radio advertisements in a clear and conspicuous manner with equal prominence and in close proximity to each listing of the promotional rate or payment. A. The period of time during which the promotional rate or promotional payment will apply. B. In the case of a promotional rate, any APR that will apply under the plan. If such rate is variable, the annual percentage rate must be disclosed in accordance with the accuracy standards of 102640 or 102616B1 Roman numeral 2 as applicable. And C. In the case of a promotional payment, the amounts and time periods of any payments that will apply under the plan. In variable rate transactions, payments that will be determined based on application of an index and margin shall be disclosed based on a reasonably current index and margin. 3. Envelope excluded. The requirements of paragraph, what does that say? Where'd it go? D6(2) of this section do not apply to an envelope in which an application or solicitation is mailed, or to a banner advertisement or pop-up advertisement linked to an application or a solicitation provided electronically. Letter E. Alternative disclosures, television and radio advertisements. An advertisement made through television or radio stating any of the terms requiring additional disclosures in paragraph B1 or D1 of the section may alternatively comply with paragraphs B1 or D1 of the section by stating the information required by paragraph B12 or D12 of the section as applicable, and listing a toll-free telephone number or any telephone number that allows a consumer to reverse the phone charges when calling for information, along with a reference that such number may be used by consumers to obtain the additional cost information. Letter F. Misleading terms. An advertisement may not refer to an annual percentage rate as fixed or use a similar term unless the advertisement also specifies a time period that rate will be fixed and the rate will not increase during that period, or if no such time period is provided, the rate will not increase while the plan is open. Letter G. Promotional rates and fees. 1. Scope. The requirements of this paragraph apply to any advertisement of any open and non-home secured plan, including promotional materials, accompanying applications or solicitations subject to 102660C, or accompanying applications or solicitations subject to 1026.60E. 2. Definitions. Roman numeral 1. Promo rate. 2. Introductory rate. 3. Promotional period. 4. Promotional fee. And 5. Introductory fee. Promo rate means any APR applicable to one or more balances or transactions on an open and non-home secured plan for a specified period of time that is lower than the APR that will be in effect at the end of that period on such balance or transactions. 2. Introductory rate means a promotional rate offered in connection with the opening of an account. And 3. Promotional period means the maximum time period for which a promotional rate or promotional fee may be applicable. 4. Promotional fee means the fee required to be disclosed under 1026.6B1, and 2. Applicable to an open and not home secured plan, or to one or more balances or transactions on an open and non-home secured plan for a specified period of time that is lower than the fee that will be in effect at the end of that period for such plan or types of balances or transactions. 5. Introductory fee means a promotional fee offered in connection with the opening of an account. 3. Stating the term introductory. If any annual percentage rate or fee that may be applied to the account is an introductory rate or introductory fee, the term introductory or intro must be in immediate proximity to each listing of the introductory rate or introductory fee in a written or electronic advertisement. 4. Stating the promotional period and post-promotional rate or fee. If any annual percentage rate that may be applied to the account is a promotional rate under paragraph G21 of the section, or any fee that may be applied to the account is a promotional fee under paragraph G24 of this section, the information in paragraphs G41 and as applicable G42 or 3 of the section may be stated in a clear and conspicuous manner in the advertisement. If the rate or fee is stated in a written or electronic advertisement, the information in paragraphs G4.1 and as applicable G4.2 or 3 of this section must also be stated in a prominent location closely proximate to the first listing of the promotional rate or promotional fee. 1. When the promotional rate or promotional fee will end. 2. The annual percentage rate that will apply after the end of the promotional period. If such rate is variable, the APR must comply with the accuracy standards of 1026.60 C2, D3, or E4, or 16B12 as applicable. If such rate cannot be determined at the time disclosures are given because the rate depends, at least in part, on a later determination of the consumer's creditworthiness, the advertisement must disclose the specific rates or the range of rates that may apply. And 3. The fee that will apply after the end of the promotional period. Envelope excluded. 5. The requirements of paragraph G4 of this section do not apply to an envelope or other enclosure in which an application or solicitation is mailed, or to a banner advertisement or pop-up advertisement linked to an application or solicitation provided electronically. H. Deferred interest or similar offers. 1. Scope. The requirements of this paragraph apply to any advertisement of an open-end credit plan not subject to 1026.40, including promotional materials accompanying applications or solicitations subject to 1026.60C, or accompanying applications or solicitations subject to 1026.60E. 2. Definitions. Deferred interest means finance charges accrued on balances or transactions that a consumer is not obligated to pay, or that will be waived or refunded to a consumer if those balances or transactions are paid in full by a specified date. The maximum period from the date the consumer becomes obligated for the balance or transaction until the specified date by which the consumer must pay the balance or transaction in full in order to avoid finance charges or receive a waiver or refund of finance charges is the deferred interest period. Deferred interest does not include any finance charges the consumer avoids paying in connection with a recurring grace period. 3. Stating the deferred interest period. If a deferred interest offer is advertised, the deferred interest period must be stated in a clear and conspicuous manner in the advertisement. If the phrase "no interest" or similar term regarding the possible avoidance of interest obligations under the deferred interest program is stated, the term "if paid in full" must also be stated in a clear and conspicuous manner preceding the disclosure of the deferred interest period in the advertisement. If the deferred interest offer is included in a written or electronic advertisement, the deferred interest period and, if applicable, the term "if paid in full" must also be stated in immediate proximity to each statement of "no interest, no payments, deferred interest, same as cash," or similar term regarding interest or payments during the deferred interest period. 4. Stating terms of the deferred interest or similar offer. If any deferred interest offer is advertised, the information in paragraphs H4, Roman numeral 1 and 2 of this section must be stated in the advertisement in language similar to G24 in Appendix G of this part. If the deferred interest offer is included in a written or electronic advertisement, the information in paragraph H4, 1 or 2 of this section must also be stated in a prominent location closely proximate to the first statement of "no interest, no payments, deferred interest, same as cash," or a similar term regarding interest or payments during the deferred interest period. Roman numeral 1 and 2. 1. A statement that interest will be charged from the date the consumer becomes obligated for the balance or transaction subject to the deferred interest offer if the balance or transaction is not paid in full within the deferred interest period. And 2. A statement, if applicable, that interest will be charged from the date the consumer incurs the balance or transaction subject to the deferred interest offer if the account is in default before the end of the deferred interest period. 5. Envelope excluded. The requirements in paragraph H4 of this section do not apply to an envelope or other enclosure in which an application or solicitation is mailed, or to a banner advertisement or pop-up advertisement linked to an application or solicitation provided electronically.